I'm back working on this Ram truck, and after running it for a short period of time, I found out that it has an oil leak coming out of these tubes, which is the rear drive axle that comes out to the wheel. You can see the oil on the tire here, right there. The other side isn't leaking, but I'm going to replace that too. So the first step here is to get the tires off, the brakes off, and then get the rear differential here drained. Now the silver lining in all this is that I just put these brakes on, so they're going to come off perfect. I'm going to leave the pads right in this, and I'm just going to set it carefully aside up in the back of the truck and leave it there. Now I'll have to clean these again, just like I did the last time. But as you can see here, see how these rotors bedded in? The trick here is to, metal on metal is not good. So there's a trick that the shops and the mechanics won't tell you. And what you do is you find a stretch of road, you go 35 miles an hour down to 5, braking hard 3 times. You go to 50 miles an hour, down to 5, braking hard 3 times. Then you run these rotors, you just run the vehicle and let them cool, because these rotors will get up to like 400 to 500 degrees when you do that. But it transfers the material from the pad to the rotor, and it beds these in. These rotors will probably last 3 to 4 or 5 times longer than they would normally. So anyway, I thought I'd extend that information to you. And I did that with this truck, and you can see these rotors are a different color. They're almost like a blue. And what you've done is you've actually changed the metal in these rotors and hardened it, like you would if you would put it in oil after heating it. That's what's happened here. So I'll have to clean these again before I put them back in, and clean the pads before I put them back in. Right now, the other thing I just did is I used this clamp, and these are so pliable yet, I just pushed this back in so it's ready to be back reinstalled. Okay, everything is off the driver's side. Rotor's off, brakes are off, everything came off great. I pushed this piston back in, and I'm done with that. So the next thing is to go under the truck and pop the cover. All right, these bolts are 13 millimeter, so we're going to take them out next. Now when you put these back in, you have to do it in sequence. Well, that one's not 13 millimeter. Nope, no, that one isn't either. They're not right, so we need to find something else to get those guys out. What I did was I drove a 12 millimeter socket over this bolt, and I got it out. Got this guy out as well. These 2 bolts will have to be replaced. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these other bolts out. It's already starting to drip there a little bit, except for the top 2. I'm going to leave those on, and I'm going to let those guys hold this on while I get the oil out. So in other words, my case just doesn't come thundering down and drop into the pan and all that happy stuff. All right, so we're going to take this off. Lay it upside down so I can clean it and get it ready to go back on. And it's sludgy at the bottom, it's just dirty. Hasn't been changed in a long time probably. I don't see any shiny stuff in it at all. I don't feel any play in it. I don't see any gear teeth wear much. I don't see too much going on with it at all. Now the way you get those out is I have to spin this around, and there's a bolt in there, and this center pin comes out, and these axles back in here have a C-clip on them, so we have to push the axle together and drop the C-clip. So the next step is going to be to get this turned around. Get that into position there. And this little bolt right here has to come out. It goes through this pin and screws in the other side. Then you take this pin out, and you be very careful with your spider gears. And I'll show you exactly how we're going to do this. But this rear end doesn't look bad at all. It doesn't seem to have any end play. I've looked at the gears coming around. They don't look terrible or worn. Everything looks good. So, reach up in here, and I don't feel anything on the pinion. It all feels really good. So I'm going to call this probably just worn out bearings and worn out seals. And then we need to replace the gasket here. And this gasket, I don't think it has much of one. I'll scrape this down. I'll scrape it off the rear end. And then I use, of course you know if you've watched my channel, I use FP Diesel. And I did that on my 91, and I've done that on the 310, and I've done it on all my heavy equipment, and the stuff works fabulously. So we're just going to let this drain for now. We're going to get this bolt out, and then we're going to see what we got. All right, taking this bolt out, it says 8 millimeter. Now we have to rotate this down and push out this pin. Let's see if this pin drops out. And it does. Now that hole has to be relined. It goes all the way through that pin. There's 2 clips in here. There's one on each axle. So we have to push the axles ahead towards the center. And the clip will come out. Push it out with our fingers. Like so. There's the clip that goes in it. And I'm going to keep these concentric. This one's going back in this side. So I'm going to lay it up here in the spring, right where I know where it is. We need to do the same thing with the other side. Get that one pushed in. And there it is. Okay, that clips out. And I'm going to keep that concentric to the passenger side, just because that's how they came out. It always seems like a good idea to put them back in the same side. So I'll lay that one on that one, and we'll pull the axles. And hopefully these spider gears here will stay exactly where they're supposed to, because if you don't move it, they don't seem to want to move out. I will clean these all up. I'm setting these here. So so I know which side goes where. And I'm going to go get some chalk and mark them so I do not mess those up. All right, I marked this one driver's side. Took it out of the driver's side. Now we'll go up here and we'll put a P on this one for passenger side. Those are set. Now this seal on this side, this is the passenger side, is definitely shot. And it came right out, part of it. The inside of the seal came out. And you can see the grease and grime here. It's been leaking for quite a while. And there's what's left of it. Now the bearing doesn't look too bad. You know, and anytime they don't look too bad, you're half inclined to leave them in. But I believe that it needs changed. There's a reason why this seal went bad. And I believe it's because this bearing has a little wear on it. And probably that wear let the axle come down and take this seal out at the bottom. Okay, I had this little hammer thing, this all-thread rod. I had a light hammer on it for doing some stuff that I needed to do with some other projects. What I did here was I put one of my Go Devil heads on here. The piece in here is just exactly the right size. I could turn it enough to get it in behind the bearing and lock it to the bearing via this piece, which I had laying around the shop, and I just drilled this hole in this piece a little bigger. This was off my dump truck video when I was putting on the new piece in the back for the running lights. It's good and solid. It's pulled up against the back of the bearing. Let's see if this sucker comes out. And there she is. The bearing is out. Now all I have to do is straighten this out and flip it over and use it for the other side. They make a very expensive hammer for this application. I figured, you know what? I don't need that. So I didn't use it. All this is a piece of 3/4. This is a piece of 3/4. You can see it bent some, but I can straighten that out and we can pull the other side with it. All right, this is a piece of 2-inch pipe. It's just 2-inch pipe and it fits this perfectly. So I can use this to drive the bearing in. Now the bearing I've set up with numbers out because that's the way the old one came out, and that is usually the way that bearings go in. So when you get to the point where you need to change them, a lot of people can use the numbers for reference. So leave the numbers out. Now I also cleaned up around here, and I cleaned up inside all this, and I used brake clean to do it. So that's all set to go. So now we'll just start tapping this bearing into place. When this bottoms out, you'll hear the change in timbre. It'll sound like steel on steel. Okay, I do believe that is in. A little bit of oil on this, good clean oil. This is what I'm using. This was what mine calls for, full synthetic, 75-140. Okay, I got this oil opened. I'm just going to put a little bit right there and just work this bearing around. I cleaned all this stuff off too because This new seal has some kind of a sealant on it, and it was around in here as well. So I'm going to take a rag and I'm going to wipe this off. Now I'll show you how I'm going to put this in. All right, I'm just using a block of wood here. I just got this a little bit started, but you just work back and forth, side to side. Tap that a few more times. It looks like it's just there. And that is in. Okay, this is the one I marked P for passenger side. I got it all wiped down good and clean. Find the hole. She goes. All the way in. Now we'll go in and put the clip on that one and push it out, and then we'll go do the other side. Okay, the trick to this is to get this clip in like that and then push the axle back out. And that locks it into place and the C-clip can't come off. All right, we're over here on the second side. This is the driver's side, and I'm going to wipe this down. You can see how much it's been leaking too. I don't think either one of these were sealed very well. There's the center part. This seal is being a son of a gun. I very seldom have too much trouble with seals just when you collapse them like that. They usually just come right out like that. This is the piece that goes inside. And it's a little tricky getting it in there. Get that nut just around the corner there. And then a lot of times on the other side it snapped right in like that. I think from past experience this actually starts to move the bearing. And out you come. This hammer cost me nothing. Absolutely nothing but a half hour's time. You don't need the $100 worth of stuff to get the job done. Right here is where the seal sets, and then the bearing goes back and seats here. Quarter of an inch to go, or a little less. Hear that? That's seated. See, she's in. She's as far as she's gonna go. You can buy all kinds of fancy tools for all this stuff. I mean, if you're working on this stuff every day, 8 hours a day, and you're doing this kind of work 8 hours a day, then have at her. But I figure I can do it this way. Okay, you again use the fingernail test. You can get your fingernail in it anyway, right at the bottom. I think that is seated. Time to put the axle back in. put her in. Okay, go in there and put the clip on. All right, I got the C-clip cleaned up. We're gonna put it in here. I got the axle pushed in as far as I can get it. Okay, slide the axle out and lock that in. And I gotta move this back around and put the bolt back in. Okay, I gotta turn the drive shaft up. I don't know if it really matters to anybody, but the threads are here, so it must screw in right there. And this other part goes through the pin and holds it in place. Anyway, the pin goes back in here and has to line up. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna let this drain out as much as it's gonna. I've been spraying it with brake cleaner all day and kind of getting all this crap off. There's not much left. So I'll continue to clean this until it runs clean. This actually had a gasket on it. I haven't seen one of these in years. Okay, I've covered all this with a clean rag, and I'm going to take my wire cup and I'm just going to go around here and get all this crap off. Okay, that looks way better than it did before, and I think the stuff I'm going to put on will absolutely stick to that now. All right, the pan cover's not terrible, you can see, but I got a wire brush here and I'm just going to clean it off with it. I think that'll do it. Looks pretty good. It's dirty and it kind of just needs cleaned. Right, now this is all completely clean. I laid a clean rag on it because I was cleaning off the bolts as they go back in, these bolts. So I got those cleaned off. So now this is the FP diesel here. And the instructions say apply a thin coat on both mating surfaces. And it says allow to dry. You saw me use this on the 91 on the water pump and it never leaked a drop. Sealed up the rear of the 310 with it, never leaked a drop. Okay, looks like I got all the thin spots covered. And let's go under the truck and get it on there. All right, we'll wait for that to dry, and then we'll put it together. All right, this is completely dry, and I'm going to start these 2 new bolts at the top here, and we'll get up and find the holes. Now I cleaned out all these holes, and I got all the gum out of them. If there was any in them, there was only a couple. Seemed like they had a little bit in them. Now they say that you can use this FP diesel right off the bat, but I usually give it a while. So what I'm going to do is, once I get done here putting these bolts in and tightening them up to torque, I'm going to go ahead and put my brakes on. And that should give it enough time to dry before I put the fluid to it. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to tighten these up snug. And then I'm kind of going to do the best crosshatch I can do here. Started here. All right, she's done. All right, now pop this cap back out. This is the additive suitable for use in OEM limited slip differential applications, and this is 4 ounces, and that's what this truck calls for. Like that. And then we'll put it in here, tip it up, and put her in. So we will stick this guy on here as well. Like that, and then come up and drain this one in. Now this is supposed to hold 2.4 quarts. I'm putting 2 in plus the additive, and we'll see what I need. All right, the first quart's in, and then we'll repeat the process. All right, the second quart appears to be empty. And let this hose drain down in, and we'll see where our full level is. See if we're anywhere near it. I got a rag here to wipe up any excess. Now let's do the finger test and see where we're at. Just about right here. So I'm thinking we're good for now. Okay, now we'll start this beast up and run it on the stands and see what happens. On the stand still, I've got it in drive. I've got the tires turning. I don't see anything leaking anywhere. I don't hear anything. There's no grumbling, there's no groaning. I don't see anything leaking. So now I'm going to go in and shut this down, and I'm going to go back under and take the cap off and check my fluid level and see where it's at. Okay, I've shut the truck down. Now this here is nothing. I crowned this, so that's nothing. But there's nothing at the bottom of the rotor. There's no leak there. That all looks great. The pumpkin looks great. Totally dry. Don't see any problems here at all. This side here, it was leaking right down here. You can see where it was leaking on the backer plate. And it's totally dry. I see no problems anywhere. Now the guy I bought this truck from gave me 2 tires. This is one of them that are almost brand new. Real cheap. The other thing I got done with this is I got a brand new wheel that's almost but not quite identical to the ones that are on the truck, and I had them take the passenger side front tire off and mount it here because this is the worst tire. So that got done. That's how you fix the rear seals and bearings in a 2007 Dodge truck, and I think that carries over to a bunch of other years. So I hope that helps you out, because it's not hard, and if you have a small shop with limited tools, you can get this done on your own. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. And remember, keep working hard.